I have another special guest on Stacks of Friends, and this drummer is world renowned. Chances are, if you've heard some of your favorite R&B artists and jazz artists, you've probably heard an old boy back there hitting it, kicking it, and sticking it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, you guys, I'd like to introduce you all to drummer Poogie Bell. Poogie, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm doing no complaints over here in this hemisphere. I'm doing good.
Hey, that's all right, brother. You know what, man? You have such an interesting story, man. When I was doing my research on you, man, I said, good Lord. I was looking at all the people you played with and everything. So I said, this brother got the goods, man. So let's find out how you got there, man. How you got to these world stages with some of these big artists, man. When did you start playing music?
Whew, man, okay, I'll put you this way. God willing, my next birthday, I will be 65 years old. But I made my stage and debut playing at this Carnegie Hall here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because the family's from Pittsburgh, Carnegie, Anyway, so I made my stage debut at 2 years, 6 months. And I've been playing the drums for as long as I can remember somebody calling me Poogie. The story goes like this. So my father, his name is Charles Bell. He put out records on Atlantic and Columbia. It's called the Charles Bell Contemporary Jazz Quartet. He had a rehearsal at the crib. And I sat up in a white diaper. My mom tells me I was about 16 months, 18 months old, sat up in a wet diaper for 2 hours just staring at the drummer. The drummer's name was Alan Blairman. At the end of the rehearsal, he handed me his drumsticks, right? So the next day, my mom says she was woke up by drums like real early in the morning. So first thing in her mind was, what is this man doing in my house? Oh, has he lost his ever loving mind? So she comes downstairs, and somehow I managed to get up on the drum stool, and I was playing ting, tit, ting, and I was keeping time on the cymbal. And she started screaming because she couldn't believe it. And it's like, it's Poogie, and he plays drums. So literally for as long as I can remember being able to answer to the name Poogie, I've been capable of playing drums. My father, like a lot of musicians, decided to chase his dream. So he moved our family from Pittsburgh to New York. So while in New York, I was always surrounded by some of the greatest jazz musicians on earth. So my pops was friends, and he's like my stepfather now, to Ron Carter would be at the crib. Paul Chambers lived right down the street from the crib, and him and my pop was like thick as thieves. The great jazz pianist Andrew Hill would be in my crib. Uh, just a whole, I mean, one time, because he was friends with Mary Lou Williams, who was from Pittsburgh, I got woke up when I was like maybe 9 or 10 to end an argument they were having out in the living room about something. And he woke me up to play Take Five with him. And then I sat and Mary Lou played some songs with me. And so my point is, I've always been surrounded by great musics, great musicians, and I grew up in the era of bands. Wasn't about DJs then, so there were a lot of kiddie bands and a lot of different people to play with. You know, uh, I guess the one of the most impactful things that ever happened to me was about 14 or 15. I'd done a lot of gigs with my dad, but I played at the LaGuardia High School's Music and Art, the Performing Arts School, and we had like a contemporary Latin jazz band. This was we were trying to be as kids, but there was a guy in the audience. His name was Weldon Irvine. Weldon was the musical director for Nina Simone, and he wrote the song "Young, Gifted, and Black." Right, so he was starting a play that was kind of like in the mode of what Tyler Perry does now, right? He wrote a play called Young, Gifted, and Broke, right? And it basically was about a kid band that gets a manager, and the manager, they're really talented, and the manager rips them off. But it had church scenes and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so I acted in the play and I played drums in the band. So the bass player for that band was Marcus Miller. So I met Marcus when I was 15 and he might have been 17. And I remember the first day that I met Marcus, he told me this years later. He said he looked at me and my friends and said, I know they can't play, right? And Manhattan didn't have the same type of thing to it like the Bronx or Brooklyn or Queens had at that time, as far as music was concerned, right? It was could seem more bougie, I guess, right? So that first day, we played, and on that day I met Donald Blackman, and I also met Marcus's cousin Denzel Miller. I think I met Lenny White that day, and this is like the first day of rehearsal. So I started playing with them, and it was very impactful because they taught me how to play pocket. Right, I come from a straight up jazz background, but not really an R&B and funk background. So Weldon was like, "Okay, look, young man, you play 2 and 4 on your snare drum, 1 and 3 on your bass drum, and eighth notes on your hi hat. Don't even think about hitting the tom. Don't even think about hitting the cymbal unless I say you're so." Right? That was really, really important for me. And from that point on, once I got my pocket thing together, other gigs start coming. So when that finished, I started working with Hugh Masekela, right? And I did that for a while. Then Tom Brown put out Funkin' for Jamaica, and I did that for a while. So one thing just kind of mushroomed and turned into another thing. You know what I mean? And if you show up on time and you play real good, work will keep coming to you, you know?
So are you pretty much self-taught?
Huh?
Are you pretty much
Oh,
self-taught?
well, there was a program in New York and Harlem called Jazzmobile. And at Jazzmobile, I learned from three amazing jazz drummers, great drummers, any kind of drummer. But one of them was Freddie Waits, was my first Saturday teacher. The other teacher was Charlie Persep, and the other teacher who worked with Freddie Hubbard and a whole bunch of other people, his name was Michael Carvin. So I ended up the only formal drum lessons I've ever really had came from those three people. And then when that jazz music, it was like a summer program. So when the summer program ended, I ended up to keep studying and taking lessons with Michael.
Okay. All right. So
Mhm.
basically, you most of your training though, you just you just got your teeth, you just got right after it, pretty much. You learned from the stage, pretty much. It sounds like, didn't you? You know?
Stage, and for me, like I have a massive, well, not compared to some people, but I have a very, very large vinyl record collection. And each one of those records was like an encyclopedia. They were all books that I studied. You know what I mean? Like when Herbie Hancock put out the Chameleon record, people in my neighborhood thought I could only play Chameleon because I practiced to it so much. You know what I mean? But when I would dive in on a tune or a record, or like when I was a baby, I was like the Dave Brubeck and the Take Five. I wore out, I don't know, 2 or 3 versions of that record. They had to keep buying it for me because I just kept playing like to Take Five essentially. So it was easier for me to laser focus in on things that move me. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I think a little bit of that's kind of like lost on today's younger crowd of people. But things change and move on, so forth and so on. But the records were really important. And then, like again, I grew up in the era of bands, so I had a lot of trial and error. Um, you know, to learn. You know.
That's amazing, man. And so you and Marcus are childhood friends and grew up becoming these amazing musicians playing all over the world, man. That's awesome, bro.
Well, Marcus is always was one of them cats that from everybody got that one of those dudes in their neighborhood. You know what I mean? Even I didn't grow up in Queens, but I'm just saying, like, you always have a dude who's like advanced, you know what I mean, at something. And I made a post about this, in fact, talking about him. When we were kids, it never ceased to amaze me how he knew exactly what to play and when to play it, like without fail. And it used to drive me out of my damn mind. I'd be like, how does he always do that? How did he know to pluck the string there or to slide there? How? How? So a lot of my career, and I've told him this, he just laughs, but a lot of my career was spent just trying to find the most perfect thing in essence, you know what I'm saying, to play to the music when I'm playing. I don't want to play too much. I don't want to play too little. I just want to play what the music needs when I think it needs it the most. You know what I mean? So I've always strived to do that. People like, always talk about the Erica Badu period of my career. Like, it's real funny too. They often talk about it like it's the only thing I've ever done, which makes me laugh. But the thing that made that trio unique was that all three of us had that mindset. We weren't going to play anything that music didn't need. And as I'm sure you know, if you've played trio, you can fill up all the space in the world. You know what I mean? You could just play whatever, whenever. And the first couple of gigs, to be honest with you, we kind of sounded like a fusiony kind of band. Like we were just playing, kind of overplaying, to be honest with you. But then it dawned on us at a certain point, well, just let her do her thing, and let's just try to be invisible damn near, you know, and it worked, you know.
You played with you. Am I hearing you right? Did you play in a trio with her, or?
Well, the Erica Badu band was a trio. There was only bass, drums, and piano.
Oh, okay, all right.
So with that, the record, that's the live record. That's all there's there. It's just bass, drums, and piano and background singers.
Man, that's amazing, man. And but you guys fill up the room like you say, though, man, because it sounds like it was more than that going on, though. Yeah.
Well, the keyboard player, keys, Norman Hurt, he one of the brothers with big hands. It'd be real easy for him to palm a basketball kind of brothers, right?
Right.
And so he would be able to split. He had a Fender Rhodes and one other keyboard with a wah wah pedal attached to it. And he would be able to split the keyboard in a way, and he had such great independence that he could sound like he was playing guitar while still holding everything down, other stuff down with his left hand. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it sounded big. And also that the bass player Hubert, Big Hubie, I call him Hubert Eves. Uh, Most people don't notice about him, but he's a drummer, right? And he's a great drummer, right? He played drums for a band called Lisa and Cult Jam,
Yeah.
right? So when I would play something, right, a lot of times he would look over me like, yeah, I knew you was gonna play that. And he'd be right on top of it. And he just like grin, like, uh-huh, I knew that was coming. I got it. So yeah. Just playing with the music needs. That's
That's
what it
it.
was about.
So
Yeah.
do you have perfect pitch or relative pitch?
I guess I have good relative pitch. It really gets on my nerve if something is either flat or sharp. It just drives me out of just makes my skin crawl. And I've worked with a couple of singers who literally just, might have a taste too, and then start singing sharp. It'd be a long night for me. You know what I mean? But I probably that the singers, people who things that are flat really just get that's really bad. I just don't even think about it. But I don't have perfect pitch. Thank God, because that would really drive me crazy.
Hey, I know a couple people that have that, and like you said, they just be walking down the street like, oh, that sounds like an A flat. It's like, what you talking about?
Yeah. It's like, what A flat? Where? I know exactly what you're saying.
Hey, you know what? Now I want to ask you another question about Marcus. Though, I just found out years ago that he played the bass clarinet. Was he always playing woodwinds back then too?
Oh man, so that's the other thing too. Okay, so his first instrument was clarinet. I think he got a music scholarship to go to school playing clarinet,
Okay,
you know. But it's a time of bands, back in the day, R&B bands, there wasn't much call for a clarinet player, you
right.
know. And I don't remember exactly how he ended up on bass. He told me, I just can't remember now. But yeah, most people don't know that he plays clarinet, and he would come out on stage and oftentimes play the bass clarinet,
Yeah.
on the gig, and there've been times too where he would pull out a soprano sax, yeah, but yeah, he's multifaceted dude, great piano player.
Well, I didn't know he did. But I know one thing: he can write like a mother. Though when he wrote for Sanborn, my goodness.
Oh man, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah. Good period of time. The early '80s and '90s. Yeah, that was a heyday for instrumental music. You know what I mean? I think one of the things that I always thought he was really capable of doing is writing instrumental songs that, for a lot of people, become anthems and become hits. You know what I mean? Like "Run for Cover" or
know,
"Two for Miles."
wow.
You know,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
has a knack for just finding stuff that like is very very appealing for instrumental music. You know.
Hey, let me ask you about Alex Bouillon. Though. I know you played with him for a while. And did you produce some producing with him too?
Oh man, Alex is. I probably have produced three or four of his records, at least that many, might be more. We met playing in Freddie Jackson's band. So when Freddie Jackson was at the height of all of his R&B-ness, Alex was one of the keyboard players in the band. And I remember after the first, it's funny now, I think back now on it, after one of the first rehearsals, we were walking to the subway, and I said to Alex, I said, man, we need to get together and do something, And here it is, 30 plus more years later, and he's literally one of the only people I still work with. You know what I mean? We had a really good Thanksgiving weekend at Blues Alley, and I played for 3 or 4 nights. And yeah, so special player, special person. Has been a steady part of my musical life and friendship. So yeah, yeah, Alex Bouillon, man. Yeah.
That's a bad cat, man. When I first heard him, man,
Yeah.
I was like, man, this dude has got some flavor, bro. You know?
Yeah, he can
Yeah,
play. He can play. He
yeah,
can
yeah.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, your career, David, boy, I'm looking at some Stanley Clark, Randy Crawford, Roberta Flack, Al Jarreau, Shaka
Mm-hmm.
Khan, David
Mm-hmm.
Sanborn, Luther Vandross, Stanley,
Uh-huh.
Too Bad Stanley T. Come on, man. Oh, you've been doing it, brother.
Yeah, well, like I said, if you play good, you show up on time, and you got a decent attitude, you should be able to keep some work going on for yourself. And I'm often, and I never really got into the politics of stuff. You know what I mean? There in New York City, as I'm sure you're out on the West Coast, right? You in
Yes,
LA?
Yes, I'm in Orange County.
Okay,
Yes. Uh-huh.
okay. So there's could be a lot of politics in music. You know what I mean? You
Yes.
got to know this guy to get this. You got to know that guy to know that. I've always just kind of shown up places, and it's always been based upon my plan. I've often had people look at me like, "Well, how did he get here?" You know what I mean? Because I didn't go through none of the political channels and do things. So I mean, I've done Broadway shows like the woman who was in The Lion King. Her name is Heather Headley, right? She
Yes.
did a one woman show on Broadway, and all the people who were there were, very very much politically, with the politics and the connections and the cliques and the whole thing.
Right.
But somebody said call Poogie, and you know what I mean. And I showed up, and my sight reading ain't the best in the world, but I made it through. And here's my thing: whenever it's time for the gig, right? Whenever it's time for the gig, some kind of light in me always turns on. So no matter what the gig is, when I get up on the stage and I'm about to play, I'm going to play something, that's meaningful. So I could never forget this. So we had these great sight readers on this Broadway thing, right? I mean, they could read, fly poop at 1,000 meters, right? I mean, just could read anything.
Right.
And I'm up here with my Rumpelstiltskin skills, and I was messing up these rehearsals. I mean, just like crashing and burning constantly. But when we got to the gig, I actually had to learn the music. I'm taking the music to heart, you know? So I found now I'm finding corners, I'm finding little places and spaces in the music that they're just reading the chart, but I'm involved, I'm wrapped up in the music, right? So we were playing an up tempo number. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And now I'm playing, right? And I'm playing fills and I'm doing stuff that ain't got nothing to do with the chart, right? And the other musicians start to look at me like, what in the hell? Right. And then they decide, well, I'm going to play one too, right? And then some of the things they played, I was like, oh, Lord, 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 keep reading that paper. Don't come over here with me. This ain't your, you better read those dots. Leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? So this, I internalize music when I learn it. You know what I mean? And I try to find things in the music, like again, like I'm always trying to find the thing to play, But now you got guys, I mean, no disrespect to nobody. Like one of my favorite drummers out there where you are is a brother by the name of Teddy Campbell. I love the way Teddy Campbell plays. He's a great sight reader, but yet and still he never sounds like he's reading.
Right.
He always just sounds like he's playing, but not everybody can do that. I guess is my point, you know. But I never got involved with the cliques or trying to hang out with this group of people or that group of people or none of that kind of stuff, because I don't think anything has anything to do with music. I did a TV show with Vanessa Williams, right? Beautiful woman, and I had done a show with. Did a Christmas special, right? And they called me for that, right? So same thing, Broadway, TV, right? All the best sight readers, the whole 9 yards, right? And everybody's kind of looking at me like I was the roadie setting up the drums and carrying on, right? So I go sit out in the audience, and then Vanessa shows up, right? And then Vanessa sees me sitting there, and she goes, Poogie, and she runs over and hugs me and gives me a kiss on the cheek and everything. And now everybody's looking at me like, who's that? Who's that? You know what I mean? And but when you're just being yourself, good things are going to happen for you. So I never subscribe to that click or know this guy or know that guy to try to get this work and the blah blah blah. I always figured if God wanted me to have the work, have it.
You know what? And that's a good attitude to have, man. And you had some key points, like you said. The thing is, you got to be kind and cordial. You got to fit in, and just be nice. Do your work. Be there on time or before time, and things will
Right.
work for you, right? Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's has essentially has been my whole career. Like the first rehearsal I did with Erica, I'll never forget this. So she comes over to the drum set. She says, "Well, what's that thing right there you're hitting?" I was playing a hi-hat, right? She says, "Well, what is that?" I said, "Well, you know the thing on your drum machine that says hat?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, this is what that's mimicking. This is actually it." And she goes, "Oh, well, it's so much louder than I'm used to." So I took out like a kind of a brush kind of sticky kind of thing. And I said, well, listen to this, right? And I played it. She said, is that better? She said, oh, yeah, that's cool. Thank you, right? So if you were ever to find the early TV shows of me playing with Erica, you'll see me playing with one drumstick and one kind of like black kind of hot roddy looking stick, right? But that was the reason why, right? Or the second day of rehearsal, someone had left a wind chime in the studio, right? And I walked by it It was by the drum set. They left it up on by the drums, and I just kind of ran my fingers across it. And she said, "Ooh, that's pretty." I said, "You like that?" She said, "Yeah." So I grabbed it and put it next to the drum kit.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I had a wind chime. So it's just more about being gracious and understanding where people are at that time, especially if you're working with singers who, whether they want to admit it or not, are very, very insecure people because they're in front of the band. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
not back with a group of people, you know. So yeah, just like you said, being gracious, being on time, being humble, you're going to work.
Yeah, man. And
That's what's up.
you produced and played on Shaka's I am Grammy, right? I am.
Well, the no, Marcus produced that record, but I played on the I think it's the title track, and yes, it did win a Grammy.
Right.
But Marcus produced the record.
Right, man. But I mean, but your hands are all in this stuff, man. Let me ask you about odd signature times, man. As a drummer, 6/8
Hmm.
and all that kind of stuff, man. Is that challenging to learn the different time fields? You know what I mean? Or is
Um, I guess it can be if you let it. You know, when I was 15, 14, 15. I worked with Michael Urbaniak. So he was a fusion violinist from Poland. And a lot of his songs, be like 5/4, 5/4, 6/5/4, 6/4, 3. If you allow it to consume you, yeah, it's going to be tricky. But if you just think of it as just I think of everything, no matter what I'm playing, in four. You know what I mean? And eventually, it's going to come back to one. Like you have people still to this day who play actual proof, like Herbie song, right? And they're counting all sorts of kind of crazy ass ways. I've seen it written. Oh, this is a bar two. This is a bar. Blah blah blah. Whenever I play that song, I'm playing in four the entire time.
right,
You know what I mean? And I catch an accent there, but it's 4/4. So that's always my mentality. Whatever rhythm I'm playing, I want it to feel good, and I want you to be able to dance to it. And it shouldn't matter what the time signature is if you're following that rule and step. You know, um, I remember a guy. I'll never forget this. There was a not a very good kind of progressive rock band, and this guy wanted me to play on his record, right? And I think he thought I was being belittling to his music, which I thought, when I look back on it, I was laughable. But he had a whole bunch of odd meters and this, that, and the other that he had problems playing, right? And I just started playing whatever and playing all over it, right? But he thought that I wasn't digging into his music because I wasn't counting, you know?
uh,
So I guess there's a whole bunch of different schools of thought. I enjoyed Sesame Street as a child, but if I ain't doing all that counting, I'm just gonna play, and eventually I'm gonna get back to one. You know.
I like that answer, man. Hey, so what was it like working with Luther Vandross, man? What kind of guy was he, man?
Well, he was actually on that TV special that I did with Vanessa Williams,
Okay.
right? So that was a one shot deal for me. I will say, yeah, on that show we had Luther, Babyface, Shania Twain. You had Rosie O'Donnell and Elmo singing a song, that was quite unique, and Vanessa singing. So Luther, I can't remember. It was a Christmas special, and I can't remember if we did a Christmas song. More than likely, it was a Christmas song.
Okay.
So there was my drums were up like on like two tiers, and there was like a staircase in the middle. So on the right stage, yeah, stage right side was the band, rhythm section people, and on the stage left side were like strings and horns, right? So Luther comes walks down, and this I'll never forget this at rehearsal. And Nat Adderley Jr. is like his musical director was like, flapping his arms and carrying on, like, conducting the band. Luther hit one note. I'm supposed to be swelling on the cymbals or doing something, right? Luther hit one note. My whole brain just froze. I'm not playing. I just turned into like a chick. I was like, oh my God, it's Luther. I just like the sound was so melodious, and he just sang one note, one. And my mind was just like, oh wow, just it was completely blown. And Nat Adderley Jr. is he's waving his arms, looking at me, and the great percussionist Bashiri Johnson was like, Poogie, Poogie. And I was like, oh, and it dawned on me I wasn't playing. And they have, and I messed up the whole intro of the song. We had to do the shit. Oh, excuse me, had to do it over again. But yeah, it was something else, man, to be like literally arms, like I could reach out my hand and touch him. He was that close to me. And to hear that sound that close was I'll never forget it as long as I live.
You know what?
I will never forget it.
I can imagine, all those great artists that you played with. I asked another artist, I think I asked Adrian Crutchfield about this. How do you just not just like what you just did? You up there singing with Lettucey. Lettucey sings and you got to hit the drumstick and she opens her mouth and you might hold it up like this and forget. I mean, in
And
rehearsals,
forget.
you know.
Yeah, I had one opportunity to work with her. She is the real deal. Let me tell you, that woman can sing.
Oh,
Oh man, she can sing. We did this thing here. She came to Pittsburgh. We did this thing called a jazz explosion or something, and somebody was supposed to solo so she could answer, right? And and whoever it was, I guess they were timid or shy on their horn or whatever. She said, "All right, if you ain't gonna do it, I'll do it." Right? And Lord, this woman just started scatting and singing. And I was like, "Wow," She is an amazing vocalist. She is something else. She's something else.
I
But
love her.
it's easy. It's hard to be honest with you when you're working with a great singer. It's hard not to get wrapped up in their greatness. It really is.
You keeping it real. I
It's
would
like,
imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine that'd be the case.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
it is.
Hey, look, hey, Pope, let me ask you this about what is it called? Pareto principle, the 2020. Have you heard of this thing? It's called the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule for drummer. 20% of activity yields 80% of your results. Have you ever heard of that?
Uh, no, but it sounds like somebody got a good hustle going on and they getting paid. And I ain't mad at them. And however you make your paper, baby, you go ahead and make your paper.
I like that.
Yeah, make
I
your
said I had
paper.
to ask you about it when I
Oh,
saw that.
look, I see so many. I mean, I made a post about this the other day. I see so many things on YouTube as an example, tutorials that, are helpful from real guys. But then there are so many guys who are just teaching bad habits and have followings, and it's unfortunate because the musicians don't know that just because it was shot in 4K and it was mixed well doesn't mean that the information that you're receiving is good as the 4K camera or the mix. You feel me?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. I'm not, dissing everybody, but there's a lot of stuff that's just like what you just mentioned. It's like, I don't know what that
yeah,
is. I
yeah.
don't even know why somebody would do that. But again, whoever you are, make your paper,
That's
make
it.
that paper, you know.
Hey, let me ask you as a leader, you did 5 CDs as a leader, man.
Hmm.
So that's, congratulations on that, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And your last one, the one when you did weren't you doing a tutorial on the one, it was 21 minutes?
Um, Maybe I do so much I can't remember, but my last record was a record called Exhibition Continues. The record, my pop had just passed away, and so I wanted to make a more of an acoustic record, which I did. I made it with a great bassist in New York named Tony DePaula and a great keyboard player named Brent Williams, who now lives in New Zealand or someplace. where he lives with his wife and his baby now. And I got strings on there and some vocals and stuff. Being a band leader is a very, very unique experience. I don't think it's for everybody. Um, you have to constantly, when you take musicians on the road, the only piece I ever got would be the hour and 20 minutes, whatever, being up on the stage. You know what I mean? Because when I would go to Europe, with that band, so I had Bobby Sparks and then Keith Anderson and Patches Stewart. So like the guys who were with me in the Marcus Miller band, the last band that we were all in. Um, Great guys, you know what I mean? But it's a different hat to wear being a leader as opposed to being a sideman. And it's hard to explain that to a sideman who's never been a leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The two things don't have anything in common. I had a band here in Pittsburgh. It was kind of a jam band, kind of band. We, went out on the road, and we worked together for a while, damn near 5 years. And if I kept doing that, I probably would have hit pay dirt here with it. But the musicians in the band just made it very, very difficult for me because they were local guys, great players, but really didn't understand anything about the music business and didn't realize that whenever we went out on the road, I was leaving the house, 500-600 bucks in the hole before I played one note and was always just hoping that I would break even. You
Right.
know what I mean? But it's hard to explain that to a guy who's never led a band before, So it's a beautiful thing to see your name up on the marquee, you know what I mean? But it's a lot once it's up there.
That makes sense, man. That makes a lot of sense.
It's a lot when it's up there. Yeah,
Hey, so
yeah.
Pookie, let me ask you about speaking of the road, all these big acts that you've traveled with.
Hmm.
What are some of the pros and cons of being a musician on the road, besides the obvious?
Well, same thing. I would tell anybody and everybody who's wanting to go on the road, um, that it's just a different lifestyle and a different experience. If you have an issue with living out of a suitcase, I mean, there was a time in my life I had an apartment in New York City and Manhattan that I paid an expensive rent on, and I was hardly ever in it. Now I wasn't, happy that I was working, but when I was working with Keith Sweat, just as an example, that was 2 years damn near straight on the road. So we start on the East Coast, we go all the way out to the West Coast, and then we come all the way back and play all the places we miss, and then repeat. You know what I mean? Or go to Europe, or go to Asia, go to Japan somewhere, go to Malaysia or something. You know, so the travel part and seeing the world, I'm blessed that there's literally no place that I haven't been that I wanted to see. You know what I mean? I can't tell you the number of times I've seen the Eiffel Tower, I've seen the Tokyo Tower, and all that's a blessing. And I wouldn't have changed anything. If I could go back, I wouldn't change a daggone thing. But it's a unique lifestyle that a lot of people I don't think consider before they take that gig. You know what I mean? Some people adapt to it. I've seen people go out on the road and implode, like literally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This like, they start bad habits, or they already had a bad habit and it gets worse. They can't coexist with people on a tour bus. You know what I mean? And like being on a tour bus is the equivalent of being on a submarine.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to see these same people every day. For months at a time. Um, that can be really tricky for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So I would tell anybody, before you go, check out where your head is. You know what I mean? And because the only thing you're going to be able to control is you, like always. And when things start to like seem like they're going left, hold on to you. Be the best advice I would give anybody thinking about going on the road, especially for a long extended period of time. Also, no matter if, and especially if you're the relationship aspect, right? No matter how fine the person is, don't date them. Just don't do it. Just leave them alone. Just let them, whatever it is, the dancer is fine, the background singer is fine, leave them alone. You know what I'm saying? If nothing else, you don't want to take sand to the beach. So just leave them alone. A lot of people, a lot of tours end up in a quagmire because of personal relationships. And people not being able, I'm not saying it always happens, but a lot of times people just can't keep it together.
It's just like anything else. You get, like I said, you touring, you get 5 people, 10 people together at any amount of time. There's gonna be some drama. That's just the way it is.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Well, no, I've been on some tours where like when I worked with Roberta, that was a very, very adult situation. There was never any drama. Never. Never. It was a good gig. It was a great gig. Um, Coming from, when I left Erica, I went over to Roberta's gig, and it was kind of like going to like if you were going to college to get an extra degree or something, like a master's degree
Right.
or something. She was old school in the sense that when you walked out on the stage, she put a paper check in your hand, like that type of person.
Okay.
Um, and she had a huge, huge vocabulary of music, and the education I got working with her, I am forever grateful, because she wanted you to play whisper soft with the same intensity that you would play if you were playing a full volume. And that was something, I played with a bunch of people and played ballads and this, that, and the other, but that was a different, a different place to be in. You know what I mean? And she demanded that, and it was awesome.
Hey, let me ask you this,
You know?
Pookie. If you have your preference, do you prefer to just work with instrumentalists or vocalists? If you have a preference. I mean, I know you do both, but I mean, do you rather just jam with all the guys, or would you rather just, get up there and let the girls sing and you do your thing, or what is more preferable to you?
No one's ever asked me that question before. I guess I about working, if you're working with an artist that has a hit record, just in general, it doesn't make a difference if it's an instrumental hit or if it's a vocal hit. The excitement and the type of places you play and perform in are always like, they're just so cool. You know what I mean? It's great to be able to play in a basketball arena every day or to play gigs in baseball stadiums
Yeah.
and stuff, at the Blue Jazz clubs, for experiences and playing in those places. But it's another thing when you're working with an artist that's on the concert level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess my preference would be to work with people who are on that level, who can fill up a concert hall or can fill up a basketball arena. An amazing feeling.
All right. So hey, let's talk
Mhm.
about the music business now, man. This is your main thing. So from its inception, when you first got into the music business, what are the differences in recording back then? Did you guys do it live with all the instruments there, or did they split it up, or and then like nowadays they doing everything by files or whatever? So the difference in recording. So what has changed drastically since then?
I guess what you just said, all the people being in the studio together at the same time, is that, excuse me, that doesn't happen like it was just the norm before,
Right.
and you had to be able to perform on your instrument. You had to be able to work quickly because the studio time was expensive. So all that has changed, right? So I mean, I got a studio in my basement. I'm sure you got a studio, behind you, and there wasn't none of that, none of the files and stuff. I mean, everything was on a reel, and Lord, those reels used to be heavy. Woo, carrying around the reels with two or three of them bad boys in a box. Woo, but Some of it I miss. I miss the camaraderie of being in the studio with people. I think the last record that I did like that, it's a while back now. I did a record with an African artist by the name of Angelique Kidjo. And me and the great keyboardist from Detroit named Amp Fiddler were the only Americans on the date. You know, everybody else was from someplace else or from Africa. I think the guitar player was from Brazil. And that was unique because she didn't want us to, and she stood in the middle. We did this at Electric Lady Jimi Hendrix studio in New York, and she was in a booth in the middle of the room, and she wanted us to play like we were on a gig. You know, she didn't want no studio etiquette. She wanted us to play out. Um, so you know, I miss those days. You know, I wish some, you know, that you could make that happen. And I try to get people in the studio, but the overwhelming feeling of a lot of guys is like, why? You know, I can just do this at home.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, why I gotta get in my car and pay for parking if I don't have to, you know?
yeah. That's what you
So,
do now, right? Yeah, yeah.
well, yeah, you know, people send me files and stuff, and I go downstairs and play on it and send it back, and then they send me money on Cash App. So that's where we at. You don't have
What is stems?
stems are the well.
I'm trying to learn
Okay,
some stuff.
so no. Stems, when people are even working on the computer, but they get it confused. They call everything stems. What stems really are would be you made your record, right? Someone has taken the mix of your record and has essentially turned it back into a session. So they take the drum track, a stereo drum track, they take the bass track, they take a stereo keyboard track, right? And they do this when they master the record, right? And some at the master, you might say, well, I think the bass is too soft. So you could turn the stem up, right? Before you master your record. So that's where the term stem came from. But now anything that looks like a wave file, which is anything that goes into your computer, people call a stem. But
Okay.
a real stem was something that people would use at a at a mastering session for the most part. At least that's how I've used them.
Okay. Hey, so let me ask you about gear. I mean, I'm not a drummer. I don't know much about the gear though. But are you a gear guy? Do you, if they come out with some the latest symbol, or I mean, do you ever buy any of the latest stuff? You know what I mean? The
Well,
trends.
for years and years, well, I haven't bought anything in years because I have endorsements and stuff. And I always ask the company, hey, if you got something new and cool, let me check it out,
Okay.
kind of where I'm at with that kind of stuff. I think your gear is going to be as good as the person using the gear. Now, the instrument companies, of course, don't want to. They want you to make you think like Michael Jordan. It's the shoes, it's the shoes. But
Mhm.
a great drummer on a drum set that costs $5,000 as opposed to a kit that costs $1,000 or $500 is still going to be a great drummer, a great musician. You got to remember, right? Charlie Parker at one point was playing on a plastic sax, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. It's the man or the woman
it's
behind it.
it's always going to be that way. I always think it's funny when we would play some gigs with Marcus. So you would have these pedals and stuff on the floor, and his amp settings and stuff, and people would be taking pictures of the stuff, like looking at his pedals and da 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 and da da da. And I was like, it don't matter. You can take all the pictures in the world. You still ain't gonna sound like that. No, like you do. It don't make a difference. It ain't the pedals, it's him.
So yeah.
You know, it ain't the settings, it's him. So, but there are a lot of people who think, that if they get this gear, then they're going to play like, and it's really funny too, because you often see these instruments on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, right? So the guy that went out and bought the Zach so and so and so and so, and then it finally hits them. Oh, this ain't never going to happen. And now they selling their $7,000 instrument, right? So no, gear is important, but it's not as important as the person playing.
You know, I personally know that because as a sax player, man, I done bought every mouthpiece under the sun, and I still sound the same. That's just the way it is, though.
Hey, look, you and John Coltrane. So the story has it he used to walk around with like a big bag full of
Yeah.
mouthpieces. You know, so it's. But I mean, look, it's nice to try different gear.
Yes.
Sometimes it might push you in a different direction. You
Right.
know what I mean? So that's cool in itself. But at the end of the day, it's always going to be the player.
When last time you been to the NAM show?
Oh man, I haven't been to a NAM show now since before COVID.
Okay.
I haven't. And some people were asking me if I was going to go this year. I just don't have the same. I mean, for me, it was always more about the hang and
Yeah.
seeing people that I haven't seen in a long
Right.
time,
Right.
and that whole thing. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to go. I mean, I have instruments, and I just got with a new cymbal company called Samsung, and see, all the other stuff that I've been playing, I'm still playing and enjoying. You know.
What is your set? What's your gear setup? Pearl or anything, or
Uh,
what you got?
no, no. Well, I was with Yamaha for like 26 years of my life. So the main kit that I have set up downstairs is a Yamaha kit,
Okay.
and I was very close to a guy named Mr. Hagi. So he was like the father of Yamaha drums and the majority of the innovations that every drum company on earth still uses to this day. So he made me two very, very special kits, well, three actually special kits that I still play like they're, brand new drums, even though I've had them for years.
Okay. So when you on the
Yeah.
road, how do you how do you transport? Say you have to go on a flight. What do you put drums in, man? What is it? A whole bunch of different kits, or what?
Well,
What do you do?
but see, that's the best part about working with major artists, so they have a backline list of the things that you're supposed to have that you need at the gig. Um, I haven't taken an actual drum set to a gig since I was maybe, I don't know, 18, 19 years old. You
Oh,
know what I mean? And yeah, so when I get to the gig, I need a Yamaha set with this, that, and the other. I need this many cymbal stands. I bring my cymbals with me, right? Because that's very personal. I bring my sticks with me. I bring my kick pedal with me, right? Because I
okay.
don't want to be in a foreign world with that kind of stuff. But everything else is from a backline company that brings your stuff and sets it up. Even though there was a time where I had to fly with my drums. I took Amtrak with my drums. I took Greyhound with my drums. You know,
You got to do what you got to do to get them on, right?
yeah, hey, I was going to make that gig. But now, and I don't really, here in Pittsburgh, I don't play locally at all. You know what I mean? I don't do any local gigs. So if it's a gig, it's paying something and they're going to have backline. So I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. So what? You know
You
what?
know,
After all these years, Poogie, what keeps you still motivated and still kicking butt out there, man? What's happening with that?
well, I love my job. My father said something to me. I was really, really into football at one point, right? And I played, little league football in New York. I really wasn't that good, but I loved to play football, right? And my father said to me, I think maybe after a loss too, he said to me, well, the average football player's career, son, is maybe 5, 6 years. I said, yeah. And he said, but, a musician, they can play their instrument till they leave Earth. And I went, yeah, maybe I should really stick to this music thing. That was kind of the end of my whole football aspiration was that one conversation. So what keeps me going is my love for music and my love for hearing the musical ideas I have in my head, hearing them come out and to be able to share them with other people. The magic of music is it's never ending, and I don't think it ever will.
Yeah.
You know, people need music. You know, you got to think that show you played where the person's cell phone just got cut off, right? They ain't got no cell phone, but they're sitting in the audience, and for an hour and change, they ain't thinking about the cell phone being cut off.
Right.
You know, that's a beautiful feeling that you could do that for someone, or make somebody feel so good that they come up to you and they're just happy to see you, and they don't even know why they're happy to see you. You know what I mean? That's the magic of music to me, and I want to participate in that for as long as God lets me.
Amen for that. You know what? Which brings me to another question. Or actually, congratulations on your new record company. I just saw you posted. So you want to talk about that?
Yes, sir. Well, this was a long time thing coming, and I'm happy that it has played out in the way that it has played out. Uh, the guy that I put two of my records out with out over in Europe, his name is Joachim Becker, right? I had a record that I had made before, the COVID thing. The COVID thing happened and everything kind of got, and I didn't put the record out, right, on my own. And he calls my manager and he says, "Hey, does Poogie still have that record? I just worked out a new deal with a new distributor. I'd like to put out that record." And I said, "Well, this is what you're going to," I told my manager, I said, "This is what you're going to tell Joachim." I said, "You're going to say, Poogie does have the record and that you can put it out, but you have to give me access to all of your stuff. So your distribution, anything and everything you got that you use, I want it." Right. And my manager, like, there was like a dead silence on the phone. He was like, "Well, you really want?" I said, "Yes, you go tell him that." Right. And so he came back like a day later and he said, "Well, I'll be." The guy said yes. Right. But and so I was, absolutely thrilled, of course. Um, but it was, I felt that, a need, especially at this point in my life, to get on the other side of the fence. You know what I mean? And to be able to have a space where I felt respected and create a space to offer musicians, well, they're going to be respected, for their musical skills and their talent, and not have people mess over them. And I guess the logic behind it was, and for the artists that I've talked to, and that, I got 3 people signed up. It was like, "Look, you don't have to worry about none of that stuff with me, because I've been through it. I know what it's like, to have, suits at the major label talk crazy to you, to get the streaming money that, how you gonna pay somebody 0.002% of a penny, you know what I mean, and be okay with that, you know what I mean? Or, dealing with bad booking agents, dealing with bad management companies, just the level of disrespect that musicians and all artists from every and creative people in general have to deal with and have to put up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I just wanted to have a place where I would feel just okay and let other people know, if you're here with me, you're okay. You know what I mean? I'm doing licensing deals, which means that at the end of the contract period, the music reverts back to the artist. So I don't own anybody's music when everything is said and done. It's like renting a car. I'm gonna rent your car for a little while, I'm gonna drive it, and then I'm gonna give it back to you. But while I'm driving your car, we're gonna split the profits 50-50. I'm not doing like trying to take 80% of your money in. All sorts of craziness that happens to people on a daily basis. But but it just came clear and evident to me that if any of that was ever going to happen for me, that I was going to have to create it on my own.
Well,
You know,
congratulations, man.
thank you, thank you,
And good
thank
luck with that too, man. In 2026, may you prosper in everything that you do, brother, because you have put in the work. Okay.
Got to put in the work.
Yeah,
Got to put in. All it is work.
that's it. Hey, let me ask you about uh dang, what was that? Oh yeah, any upcoming projects? You have any upcoming projects that you're working on?
Well, I mean, the record that I was going to put out, before COVID. I'm gonna put that record out. It's essentially an instrumental and probably the funkiest record I've made in a long time. I got a cast of who's who've played on the records. I mean, Marcus played on the record. Will Lee played on the record. I did the record such a long time ago. I really can't remember all the people who are on the record, but there are like really great musicians on the record. Many of them volunteered their time to me or bartered their time to me. So that's, is going to be the next thing. But the artist that, I'm putting out on my label, the first release is by a young man from New York named LaMarco. It's kind of an R&B pop 80s kind of jam called Lonely. That's going to come out the end of the month. And then I got a brother named James Black, who's a great bassist from Cleveland, Ohio. He has a song called, oh Jesus, I'm gonna mess up James' name of his record. I should know it off the top of my head. Don't Go. And it's like a 2026 version of something like maybe the Stylistics or the Shy Lights would do. I mean, this brother can write
Okay.
and he can play and he can sing. And then I got a sister from ATL named Chi Chi, who's like thinks of herself as an inspirational kind of artist, but I think of her like the track she made is like a 2026 version of the SOS band. She kind of reminds me of Mary Davis when she sings, you know?
Okay.
So that and I mean some Alex Bouillon gigs coming up and as always trying not to piss my wife off, that's always important. And so yeah, that's what I got coming up and practicing on my drums and like a grown man should practice on his instrument.
How often do you
So,
practice?
oh man, I try to get it in every day, but if in a week I might get in 3 or 4 good ones. You
Like,
know what I mean?
yeah, that's good. That's good.
If,
You still,
if, you know, I wish it should be more, but now my practice is more focused on all the things that I should have been working on when I was young, but I was busy working.
right.
You know what I mean? So, but now to have the time to do those things is impactful, but it's hard. Whew. It's like, dang,
Yeah.
you know, you know how some simple things look like they're really simple until you start doing it and you go, oh,
Yeah.
uh-oh, I better slow this metronome down about 78 beats per minute,
That's it.
you know. Taking my time with this.
Well,
But yeah,
Poogie,
that's
do you have any can you give everybody your social information, how to get in touch with you, contact? And this has been awesome.
well,
Awesome,
just
awesome
find me.
conversation.
You can find me on Facebook, Poogie Bell. You can find me on Instagram, same thing. Please do go to www.sugatopmusic.com and sign up to our email list so you can stay abreast of what we're doing over there. And check me out, follow my daily posts because I post in the day, in the morning, I post in the evening, and I'm trying to share information that I hope is useful and to create a space where people can have dialogue and share things with each other. I often have people leaving very long comments on my page, but I think it's important that the detail and the musicians who are chiming in because they're sharing real experiences with people. You know what I mean? So there ain't no TikTok dances, but if you're looking for real information, I would say come check me out and subscribe to my Facebook page. And like you, this year I'm going to start doing a podcast that's a long form thing that I'm going to take to YouTube. And I got a unique concept in mind that I'm going to do. So please be on the lookout for that. And that's it.
Boy, you know what? I told you, I really thank you. And I tell you what, my man Big Vale Johnson, he's the one that said, man, you
Mhm.
gotta talk to my boy Poogie. And I looked on
Yeah,
that
there you go.
and I said, see, that's what's up though. It's all about relationships, isn't it though? You know,
Yes,
it's
it
all
is.
about relationships. So I'm so glad that he put us together, brother. And thank you so much for your time. And man, you're a wonderful musician, brother. Just your resume speaks for itself, man. You know?
Well, well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. And I'm just an amateur saxophone player that loves music and loves people. So when I get to talk to great artists like yourself, it motivates me to pick these up even more and play them even more. You know what I mean?
Hey, trust me, I understand. I understand. You know, my son Winston Bell is a saxophone player.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He had a couple. He put out two singles, and it had got a little smooth jazz love. But he has worked with a whole host of hip hop artists and
Wow.
all sorts of stuff. He's in New York City right now,
What's his
trying to
name
make
again?
his way
What's his
through.
name again, Pooja?
Winston Winston Bell,
Winston
and
Bell.
his nickname is Winnie.
Winnie. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna
you
look him
can
up.
find him on the social media.
I'll do that.
He's out there working his young tail off, trying to make it happen.
That's what's up,
You
man.
know,
All right. Well, hey,
exactly.
once again, Pooja, thank you for your time, brother, and much more continued success in 2026 and beyond, brother. All
Same
right.
to you, baby. Same to you.
All right. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen,
All right,
Mr.
baby.
Poogie Bell, check him out. He's doing wonderful things. All right. You guys have a good one later. Thank you,
Later on.
Pooja.